Hello and welcome to week 3 of 298 Designing and Deploying Cloud Applications. Um, I believe by now I have looked at and graded and responded to each and every one of the homeworks that's been submitted as of the time I'm recording this. There are My feedback is either, oh, you need to redo this, or you need to add more information to this and resubmit, or good job, this is what I think, or this is where I think you need to add more to, but you don't necessarily need to resubmit. So normally, if I give you full points for the homework, then you don't need to resubmit. But because there's going to be use for the charter later on, please pay attention to my feedback because it's going to come in quite handy. But if I gave you a very low number of points, because Blackboard requires me to enter some numbers there, if I give you something very low, and then with my feedback, please go ahead, look at my feedback, use it to update your assignment, and then resubmit, and I will definitely take a look again and regrade. All right, so let's get into what we have for this very week. Okay, homework feedback. That's a. In general, I think most people understood the assignment and did the assignment as expected. Today, my focus is going to be on cloud security. I have a few slides for that. By no means am I going to cover everything that has to do with cloud security or security as regards to cloud computing. Then I'll talk about what's next in terms of homework, that is this week on cs298. Homework feedback, I think I just did that at the beginning, so I'm not going to go over that again. But let's get into cloud security. Since this is a class about designing and deploying on the cloud. So when we say security, we mean the state of being free from danger or threat. That's actually the dictionary definition. That shouldn't be threat, it should be threat. THREAT. Excuse my typo there. There are about 45%, 45% of all data breaches are cloud based. That is, we still have data breaches that are not cloud based because not everybody is on the cloud, but 45% is a high number. So nearly half of all data breaches today is from an application or a system that's deployed currently on the cloud, whether it's private cloud or public cloud or a hybrid cloud, some form of cloud infrastructure. 80% of companies that are on the cloud have experienced at least one cloud security incident in the last year. Now, we said 80 I mean it was, yeah, 80%. That sounds like a large number, and you wonder, well, why don't I hear of this more often? The fact is 80% is an overarching number. That doesn't mean um there was major data loss, right? A lot of times when there are data loss, but not to customers or to clients or to business accounts, then nothing gets reported per se. But there's a lot of data loss going on, and when we go more into it, you will understand why that's prevalent. 27% of organizations have experienced a public cloud security incidents. Um, that doesn't mean it's a data loss, but it's an incident. So it could be something that they noticed, which could, if hackers or people of that nature have exploited it, it will have led to a data loss or a denial of service or any of that nature. But basically, it's saying that 27% of all organizations have experienced a public cloud security incident, which could be the actual loss, which could be a near data loss, or it could just be an exposure. You know, like somebody gets exposed to someone who has the flu or who has COVID, doesn't necessarily mean the person will catch it. So, for example, if you find out that, oh wait, there was a scenario where someone could have stolen our data, but nobody actually got to it. Well, lucky you. So, types of cloud security threats. The first one is misconfiguration, and I'm going to look deeper into that in the next slide. Then there's insecure APIs. APIs simply stand for Application Programming Interface. That's basically an interface or a handshake that allows one application to communicate with another. So, for example, in your JavaScript, you can use an API, you can reach out to an API that supplies you a list of countries, or within a certain country rather, a list of states, a list of colleges, or even an API that does credit card validation for you. So insecure APIs is one big thing. Is another big thing rather. Lack of multi-factor authentication. So if you have your application deployed to the cloud, and your cloud, you are using a cloud infrastructure at your organization, and everybody just logs in, username and password, boom, you're done. No second check, for example, that you don't have to use a security token, you don't get a text on your or on a code, as a text message that you have to enter, or via email. Basically, if all this security you have is username and password, then you are very, very prone to a security breach or a data breach, because someone can be sitting there and either crunching passwords for your accounts, or might actually even be able to buy username and passwords that might match your system on the dark web. So MFA is if you are not um, using multi-factor authentication, you definitely are going to be exposed. Lack of visibility. So normally, if you have a local data center, you probably know how many servers you have, and you probably know all your servers because it's just a limited number. But when we talk about the cloud, I mean, one of the beauties of the cloud is as traffic increases, that is, as usage of your system, that is your web app or your website, whichever be the case, as usage increases, more servers or more resources are spin off, and um, the more you grow, the more your system grows, the more resources you use. In a cloud infrastructure, if you are not very careful, very diligent, then you get so huge, or you use so many resources that you don't even know which resources you're using. And because of the way the cloud is set up, some systems or some resources might spin off another resource, might spin off another resource, or a totally different subset of resources. You just have all these things running. You do not know what you have running, and if you're not careful and they're not properly configured as well, you know you end up having resources that are running that are probably not secured appropriately. So lack of visibility is a big deal. The distributed denial of service. You've probably heard of denial of service, which is a situation, well, the distributed version of it is a situation where someone has codes, for example, JavaScript, that's running off of multiple client computers, and those JavaScript codes are making requests to your website or to your web app. Basically, they are making so many requests to the point where your servers cannot successfully or sufficiently respond. So your site goes down. And that's a security concern because it's something that can easily happen. A lot of times, if you are renting um, a regular data center, that might be mitigated. If you're on the cloud and you do not turn on that security feature, maybe because you weren't expecting it, maybe because you didn't know, then you get seriously exposed to denial of service or the distributed version of it, where the malicious code is running on thousands or hundreds or thousands of computers around the world. So these are some that this is not all the security threats, but these are the major ones. The Actually, the first two there are the top ones: cloud misconfiguration and insecure APIs. Let's look a little bit closer at cloud misconfiguration and see what that could look like. Okay, so in the cloud, um, when it comes to identification, authentication, there's something called IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. And really, what that means is identity management is managing the fact that, okay, when you enter your credential, you as a person or as a resource, you have the right to be in this system. So when I go to my company's website, for example, or let's even use Northwestern as an example, when I log in to Northwestern's Blackboard, it will take my username and password and it will authenticate me. It will say, "Oh, you know what, Olumide? Yes, you're part of the faculty here. You have you you you're authorized to log into this system." That's one layer. That's authentication. The next layer is authorization. So I've been authenticated against Blackboard. I'm able to log in. But that does not mean I have the authority to view every course. And that's the other part of it, the access management. So now with access management or with authorization, there are some resources, some sections of the system that I will have access to. And there are going to be some sections that I'm not authorized to. So I will not have access to that. If those are not set up properly, then you have the wrong users or the wrong roles coming into the system, not only getting authenticated, but getting access, that is authorization, to areas that they have no business getting access to. And that's one of the ways that hackers come in, because you can, if as a hacker you're looking for a low level user credential, if you're able to snap that up and you use it to log in, and after logging in, you boom, you just have access to everything, because the person or persons that are responsible for authorization or access management, they've not done a good job. Then here you come, here you go, you get access to everything, and you can take over the whole system. And that's why they always say, for example, root or admin level users should be seriously restricted. There are multiple ways that organizations deal with things like this. One of the most popular one is by designing roles such that people are put into roles and easily limit what each person has access to. But unsecure identity and access management is a big deal, giving people access to what they should not be seeing, what they should not have access to. Public data storage. This actually has been a big deal of recent, and when we see, I have a slide later on that shows some of the companies that have had data breaches. Many of them actually comes from public data storage, where they were using S3, which was not secured, right? And people just had access to the data. Unrestricted ports. So every server and that actually includes your laptop. The laptops you're using right now have ports that are outgoing and ports that are incoming. Ordinarily, you are expected or you are supposed to only open ports that you are using. Now, if you just open up all ports willy nilly, then bad actors can come in through ports that you are not monitoring and do very bad things. So you are only expected to, for example, if you're running a web server, you open port 80, or if it's a secured one, then you open port 8080, and the hope is that you monitor those ports strongly. But if you keep opening up hundreds and hundreds of ports, then there are just so many that you might not be monitoring them sufficiently. Secrets management. Secrets is just a generic term here. It could be username and password. It could be API keys. It could be um, public public private keys. Basically, credential management. The credential itself, especially when there are some authentication systems where you you use a public private key exchange to authenticate rather than username and password. Now, if the public keys are not managed properly or the private keys are not managed properly and it gets into the hands of the wrong people, that could be very disastrous as well. Disabled login and monitoring. If you disable the login and monitoring on your cloud system, then you will not have good visibility into what attacks are coming in, what kind of bad requests are coming into your system. So if you disable login, you won't see those. Or even if you have login enabled but you disable monitoring, then you're logging in but you're not monitoring it. So either way, you won't have you won't be able to catch it on time. Insecure backups. Okay, so we had said earlier, I think was the last week, that one of the pros of cloud computing is backups are done for you. Well, but you will have backups, but if those backups are not secured properly, then they are just as bad as not securing the master copy, that is a copy that is running on the live cloud cloud computing infrastructure. Because let's say you have some secret files there, or yeah, things like that, then anybody that gets access to your backup, even though they can't get access, they couldn't get access to your master copy that's running on the cloud infrastructure, but if the person is able to get access to your backup, they get the same information, and they can go ahead and do anything that he or she wants to do. Finally, here I also have cloud providers misconfiguration. Truth be told, a lot of the big players do a good job of configuring their cloud system, but life could happen. Or you could be using a smaller player in the market, and there is a bad configuration, and it's out of your control. Yes, it's out of your control, but at the same time too, it's up to you to make sure that you do your due diligence when you pick a cloud provider, to make sure that that cloud provider has is very security conscious. Okay, now again, this is not everything. There are others. These are just some of the major ones that I picked to highlight. Insecure APIs, vulnerabilities in outdated software. This is actually an interesting one because I actually had to go through something similar to this. I think it was around November, December last year, where we were using a login mechanism, a login API rather, at work, where that was very vulnerable to some denial of service attack. And you know basically we had to stop every everything we were doing. Everybody in the engineering department had to stop everything and make sure we upgrade our code base to go to an upgraded or an updated version of this software. The software is Log4j. So if you're using outdated software in your code base, then you are going to be very vulnerable. So it's good to use open source software, but it's also more important. It's actually important that you monitor the versions of the software that you use, that you update as often as possible. I mean, some updates might not be necessary. For example, the moment a new version comes out might not be when you want to. You want to make sure that the version is stable, but um, it doesn't make too much sense for you to be using a piece of open source software that's like in version 1.20 and you are still using version 1.8. That's just too far behind. And any security patches that have been deployed up, I mean, so far you will be missing out of it. SQL injection is a big deal. Is a big deal. Is a big deal, especially when you take or get data from users. SQL injection is when a user can actually put commands in the text that the user is typing into your form. So, for example, a user can type, maybe you have a text area and you're asking them to write about themselves or something like that, or give suggestions, and the user can simply type drop database table, whatever the name of database table is, maybe because the user knows that you have that kind of a database table, or the user might just be guessing and he's very lucky, or the user might actually type a rm command, which is on Linux, to remove, if you're running on a Linux platform in the cloud, to remove some files. So really, when you especially when you SQL injection actually has to do more with the database. When you are getting data from the user and you are what's it called? You are inserting those data into the database. It's always advisable to use what is known as prepared statements. We won't go to that in this class. It's beyond. That's something more for a database management class. But there's something called prepared class and placeholders holders that avoid SQL injection, even if the user were to enter very dangerous SQL commands in the form. You can insert it in the database safely and it won't do anything bad. Then bad access control, similar to what we saw in misconfiguration. If people are calling your APIs and you know it's one thing if it's just a GET request, though at the same time too, even with just GET requests, for people getting data, you don't want them to get data that is supposed to be protected. But more importantly, when people can post data to your API, you want to be sure that the person or persons or the where the request is coming from is legit. So it might be, excuse me, you might need them to pass an authentication token or something like that. You want to put an access control on top as one of the first layers of your APIs. When that is absent, very bad things can happen. Okay, let's see. This is not an exhaustive list, but here are some companies that have actually experienced data breaches. Accenture is a big company. You probably know it's one of the um, what's it called? It's an outsourcing firm, basically. Alibaba is I think that's from China. The Google competition, Bing competition in Baba in China, Capital One, the finance house, Facebook. I should assume everybody knows Facebook. I should assume everybody knows LinkedIn, Marriott, the hotel, the New York City, in this case, Department of Education, Nestle, the beverage company, Pegasus, that's a Turkish airline, RayChat, it's a communication chatting platform, and Verizon. These are not everybody, right? Like I've said before, there are some that are not, that pronounced. These are just some of the big names that I think, make sense to list. Where are we? Let's see. So that I think, okay, that's where I'm going to stop with on cloud security. I think the next thing I'm going to cover probably next week is I want to cover cloud costing, and I think I'm going to do that next week. One thing I wanted to ask everybody, and I would like for each of you, there just six students in this class, if you can send me an email on this. For the We're going to use AWS, and to sign up with AWS, it's going to be free. It's going to be free. They're not going to charge anything, but they are going to require a credit card just to for identifying the person. My guess is they don't want anybody and everybody just to be signing up willy nilly, because of course they also want to make sure that their resources are not just taken over by robots. So can you let me know, yes or no, if you do have a credit card that you can use for authentication, or for just to validate who you are when we get to that class? It's going to be we'll get to it. I just don't want to rush. I want to make sure we do all the um, what is necessary in terms of the project design itself properly. But I just want to hear from each and every one of you that you do have a credit card that you can use when to sign up for the AWS free tier. Again, they will not charge you a dime. They are just using the credit card to. They are just requesting or requiring the credit card to validate who you are. That, you know what, and Olumide Adebayo is signing up. This is actually Olumide Adebayo. Please send me an email, one line, two lines, with whether whether that's fine with you or not. All right. So 298 this week. What do we have? Let me start with this. I'll go back to the assignment. So the AWS service discussion is due this week. I don't think anybody, maybe I've just didn't pay attention to, but I don't think I noticed anybody posting anything there. Please go through it. I'm waiting to read your discussion. Basically, it's the question from last week. I think what I said was look through the list of AWS services and pick three. Was it three? Was it five services that you think you might need for your project? I know you probably, some people might have an idea, some people might not have an idea. That's fine. Do your very best and just let me know in the discussion. All right. Now let's go to the actual homework for this week. This homework might take you 2 weeks, but I hope you get started sooner rather than the end of 2 weeks. So we've written our charter. Everybody knows what their web project is going to be for the semester. The next step is for us to do a design for the project. And I wrote it here clearly because people tend to use the word design and develop interchangeably. They are not the same thing. We are going to do a design. We're not yet at development for this project. And we're going to do 3 steps. One, I want you to come up with a list of all the pages that you will have on your app. So, okay, you have the home page, you have this page, you have that page, blah, 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 whatever it is. Then I want you to give each page a distinct name. Okay. Um, The third thing I will need you to do is using this website called apps.diagram.net. I want you to do a mock-up of each page. A mock-up is like a wireframe, a quick and dirty um, picture visualization of what your web page will look like. Let me see if I can do an example for you. Um, Let me share my tab. So let me share a Chrome tab. What is that? New tab, new tab, new tab. Where's new tab? There we go. All right, so here I have a new tab, and I said it's apps.diagrams.net. Is it app or apps? App.diagrams.net. It says create a new diagram, open an existing diagram. I'm creating a new diagram. I'm saving it on my I want to do something else. I want to actually show you how it will look like. Let me stop sharing this. I want to show you how it will look like when you get there fresh. Let's see, new incognito window. Okay. So where is my I think it's because I had logged in before. Okay, so new incognito window. All right, so app.diagram.net. Oh, diagrams, yeah. App.diagrams.net or diagrams.net. So click start. Flowchart maker, blah, blah, blah. In this case, I'm going to ask it to save to my disk. So I pick that storage thing, create a new diagram. If you come all the way, of course, you can absolutely feel free play around with all the various kinds of diagram here, by all means. But for what we need, you could use either wireframe or you could do layout. It's up to you. I'm picking layout. I will pick the default XML thing here, and let's say I call this contact page.io. So I have create. Oh, okay. It wants to save this. Let's call it. Let me save this in my download. Actually, wait, do I want to save that in my download? Spring 2023, Northwestern 298. So I'm just gonna call that contact page.io. Okay, good. So now I get here, and there are all these tools here. Play around with it, get comfortable with it. They are really not anything challenging at all. For me, I will normally start with a vertical container. I mean, you could start with anything else that you want. So let's say I want to design my contact page. This is my vertical container. This is basically my page, right? I can come here and I can shade it. That's it. I want to give this, let's call this contact page, right? Something like that. You can put all these boxes in there. So this is rectangle. And my expectation is that the user will fill in their first name. This is a form, right? First name. And I want that to be left align. Yeah, left align. So first name. Let me copy and paste. I'll paste this Blah, blah, blah. It needs access to my clipboard. Yep. So allow. So I'll paste that. So where is it? I'll copy and paste item. Why is it not allowing me to paste? Copy. Oh, well, let me see. What if I do duplicate? Okay, duplicate, duplicate. Okay, I need a few of it, so I'm just going to duplicate a few times. Then let's say I want to do last name. Let's say I want to do email, whatever I need for the contact form, right? And I could come down here. I think there's basic here. Let's say I want to do a submit button somewhere. Where is that? The submit button somewhere here. I can type submit in there. Yeah, it's showing in the wrong place, but if you come here under text, so if there should be something here for me to adjust it. Not that, not that. Let's see. Oh, this one. No, I'm not adjusting my image URL. There is something here for me to adjust. Let's see. Text. Okay. So if I do this, nope. If I do this, what if I do this? Oh no. So if I do position bottom, position top, what of position center? Yeah, I think that's because I adjusted the box, and I can shade it by coming to style and maybe click blue. Yep. So that's my submit button. Let's assume I want to put an image. Could, I don't know, for whatever reason. So I want to put an image somewhere here, right? Of course, you're not going to put the actual image. You can just type the word image in there to reflect that that's an image. And if you want to, you could shade it as well. It's up to you, but be consistent. If you, for example, if I choose to be shading images in green, be consistent like that. So basically you can lay out your stuff like that. That could be my contact page. Let's see, scroll up. Let's say I want to design, I mean, you could save this and create another one. So file, save. Okay. Then let me do a new one. Same thing. I'm coming to, in this case, let me call it about us page. About us. And I can pick anyone I want here. Again, save it on my, okay. Well, this is a blog, right? I'm using that as about us. You can modify it as you want. You know, just put your own stuff there and some rough text. If you want this to be an image, whatever it is you want it to be, this could be your logo. However you want to make each page look, put it there. If you have a form, in the other, what's it called? Let me see if I can open recent. Open from device. Come on. Open from device. So I had this contact page here. Oh no, let's say I want to save this. I want to save this before, because I do not want to lose it. That's the about us. So let me now open from device. and that is my contact page. In this contact page, I mean, I decided to draw the form. If there are so many things on your web page, on that particular page, and the form is just one of the things, then you don't even necessarily, if you don't want to, if you want to, by all means, if you don't want to draw the form itself, the individual items in the form, you can basically just have a blob or something, could be this, and put it there, and just type contact form, right? And leave it like that. But that's assuming there are other things on that page that warrants you not necessarily want to go into the details of the form. If that is a page that's strictly for the form, in the case of contact, or I mean, in the case of a contact form, or a contact us page, which is just a form, then by all means, please put in all the elements in the form that you are looking to collect. This Doing a mockup like this or a wireframe like this helps you when you're actually developing your various pages. And let me use this as a time to also remind people. Sorry. So yeah, we're done with that. Please, if you need to pick up JavaScript, if you need to pick up HTML, CSS, this is the time to be doing all that, because once we're done with the design, it's it's time to switch over to the actual implementation and doing the work. um if there are any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I will be looking forward to your email. I know between now and the end of this week, I'm expecting an email with regards to the credit card for validation question I asked earlier. But that's where I'm going to stop this week. Now, again, like I said, the slide, where's my slide? Okay, there you go. This homework, I'm going to give you two weeks to complete it. I hope that's more than enough. I mean, you will probably spend time on the C part on the App Store diagram.net. One of the beauties of this, what's it called, web app, is you don't even need to sign up. Just go there, do your thing, download save your file, and move on. All right. If anybody has any questions, please do not hesitate to send me an email, Olumide or Adebayo at nwcc.comnet. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the week.